Okay, what's up, people? Welcome back to another stream. Hope everyone is doing good. As always, guys, if you're enjoying the content, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel. And if you do have any requests, any pairs you're looking at, stick it in the chat. And of course, we can discuss any markets you're looking at, pairs you're trading, etc. Happy to discuss and go through some pairs. As always, we'll go through a bunch of markets which I'm looking at, some markets which I'm trading as well. And of course, pretty much the outlook going into next week as well, because of course it is Friday. Not expecting too much activity today, but hopefully we could keep an eye on some opportunities that are shaping up over the next few days or so. But of course, hope everyone's doing well. If you're enjoying the content, please be sure to drop a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And of course, hit the bell too so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. But as we spoke about yesterday, I do have a position, excuse me, on the FTSE at the moment, which I have just managed to on to break even. Looking to see if we can get another drive back to the highs at 99.27.5, which is basically the all-time highs. Had a nice lift off this level here. We did create some new highs, which I said yesterday, if we do create, I will look to remove risk and see if we can get that continuation back to highs. I do have some other levels which I'm looking at should price pull a little bit deeper. We're looking for a swing back to highs and just betting on the continuation of a very bullish market right now, the FTSE. If you look at the higher time frames, weekly chart, to be more precise, the trend is looking very strong. We've had some really nice rejection recently, still kind of holding this kind of slope here. So as long as that stays true, I'm very much a buyer of this market, expecting us to reach new highs and continue the trend. I also did hop into some shorts on New Zealand dollar as well, and a bit of drawdown on this market here. But again, looking for a swing back to the lows here. We've been pretty bearish, consistent lower lows and lower highs. Looking to see if we can get pushed back into support. I do think we can go further than that. Looking at the higher time frames, particularly the weekly chart, I do think these lows here are still likely to get run eventually. It's just about the timing, because price is looking pretty bullish right now. DXY looks a little bit weak as well. So I do wonder, maybe I've called it a little bit too early. We might have a bigger retracement before we roll over, but we will see how that does pan out. I'm still looking at eventually a push to these lows. I do have my targets there, so I'm not looking for that full move, just betting on the more high probability one. And 0.5603 is what I'm looking to see if price can get to. I do have some other pairs on the watch list we're going to keep an eye on. I like dollar yen, looking for some longs here. Don't have an entry just yet. I'm looking to see if price can come back down and respect that area. And I'll look for some entries there. Pound USD, I like a lot, especially if the momentum that's just picked up. I like the longs here for pound. I do think price is likely to push back to highs, probably even the high over there, but I'm not going to be too greedy with targets, because I do think pound on the higher time frames is quite flat. So I'll be careful with how far I look to push that trade. But again, I've got a few levels I'm keeping a close eye on. NASDAQ as well, spoke a lot about this one. I like the buys for this one as well, keeping a close eye on that level. Been watching this one all week. It's just been grinding, to be honest, not much improvement. And NASDAQ is quite interesting, because if you look at the other indices, US 30, S&P 500, I haven't looked at the Russell, but the other major US indices, they've all made new all-time highs. You can see for Dow Jones, new all-time highs there. S&P just about this morning, actually, or yesterday. Just about new all-time highs as well. So NASDAQ is the one that's lagging behind, which I like, because that means opportunity. If other neighboring markets have made all-time highs, but this one hasn't, well, there's a likeliness for this to catch up and go make those highs. So if I can get that retracement, which is a big if, because it is still pretty far away from price, but if we do see that retracement, happy to look for entries. And again, better going to push it back to highs as well. So yeah, that's kind of the markets which I'm interested in, and I'll speak about some markets which look like they're shaping up for next week as well. Good morning, Yusuf. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. Welcome, everyone. Hope everyone is doing well. Yes, we can take a look at gold, VMAL, no problem. Happy Friday. Right back at you, Yusuf. Bashi, what's up, my man? Hope you're doing good. Good morning. Hope you're well. How's your stream? Leon, good morning from Lagos. Big up to yourself. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. Of course, any markets you're looking to trade or want some opinions on, drop down in the chart. We can discuss. Miko, are you trading against me? Which market are you trading, Mercy? Bashi, what's up? Hope you're doing good. Welcome to the stream. Already had said welcome to you, Bashi. Appreciate the message, my man. Yeah, guys, if you enjoy the content, drop a like, subscribe, share. It does really help out. And of course, drop any chats, recommendations, markets you're looking at in the chat. We can discuss. Okay, so I'll go through gold. I'll go through Euro Aussie for Leon as well. Oh, you're buying SDUSD. Fair enough. Well, I mean, to be honest, it actually looks like the better play because USD looks quite weak. So I might have a good bet on that one. I do like it from a long-term perspective, New Zealand dollar, which is what I'm trying to play. But I'm also looking for USD weakness as well with pound longs and dollar CAD shorts. So I do have that as a play of mine as well. But I like New Zealand dollar on the higher time frames. But we can get into the USD as well. Thoughts on Euro and G on the 15? Yeah, we can take a look at that too. No problem. It's okay. Dead price action at M1. Cut it early. Yeah, unfortunate, man. Unfortunate. Every day is going to be spectacular. But again, that's the reality of trading as well, isn't it? Sometimes you're going to get some really nice price action, nice opportunity. Sometimes it's just going to be, like a tumbleweed. And nothing going on. And at that point, discipline kicks in. You don't want to force anything and take any unnecessary positions. Okay, so yeah, we'll go take a look at Euro Aussie gold ends the USD. We'll go for Euro GU. Of course, any recommendations, drop it in the chat. Double welcome, yeah, special, 100%, Bashi. Appreciate it, Bashi. Okay, yeah, we'll take a look at NZUSD as well. So I'll start with gold, and then I'll go through New Zealand dollar, Euro Aussie, Euro GU. Let's hope I don't forget, but of course, Bashi. Okay, so we're back. Apologies, ladies and gents. What's up, Bashi? Yeah, power cut happened. Yeah, not great. To be fair, it's been less common recently, so unfortunate time, I'm not gonna lie. But yeah, power cut. We're back. And you get a second power supply, like a generator. Anywho, we'll get back to the markets like nothing's just happened, and we'll continue from there. Anyway, bunch of requests happened. I completely forget which markets we were chatting about. Okay, yeah, euro dollar, pound dollar, New Zealand dollar, euro, Aussie gold. Okay, we'll just continue from there. Of course, any requests, chats you have, questions, drop it in the chat, and I shall get to it. Okay, so for gold, we have a breakout at the moment. So yeah, things are looking super bullish. In my eyes, it's a very high chance that we're going to see a push all the way back to the all-time highs. If you look at silver, extremely bullish. Momentum is actually very, very surprising. Actually, it's like silver's flying and gold's kind of lagging behind a little bit. So I think there's a good likelihood we'll see gold do a bit of a catching up situation, not necessarily with equally as explosive move, but I expect it to at least go and take up the highs there. So if you're looking for opportunities for gold, I would be highly advising just looking for pullbacks and just looking to long the market. I like this demand zone, nice push, brief pause there in the market, another strong push. That's indicating to us a lot of momentum from that zone there as well. Even potentially the retest of this high here could be something to look at, which is just slightly below that zone as well. So you kind of got a bit of a confluence building up around that area, but naturally you're looking for pullbacks for longs. I wouldn't be looking to take any shorts in this. I don't think there's much point in that. Of course, anything can happen, but the likelihood is that price is probably going to continue higher. So best thing to do, position yourself long, look for some lower time frame pullbacks. We're probably not going to see a deep pullback. I mean, this I would say is still actually pretty deep, to be honest. So you probably want to scale to like a hourly or 15-minute chart, look for some pullbacks in that time frame. And it makes sense as well because there's a lot of momentum in the market. The chances that we're going to continue to see that momentum as well. So you can be aggressive and look to take some shallow pullbacks. But essentially, gold's looking very bullish. As long as we stay above 42.58, I don't want to see price break back below that. Not necessarily that means we're bearish, but it means that that momentum, that breakout has kind of failed a little bit. So that would be a little bit of a warning sign. But stay above that. I would expect to see new all-time highs pretty soon for gold. And of course, silver, absolutely killing it right now. Again, just looking for smaller pullbacks there and expecting more upside. What's up, Lorraine? Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. Good afternoon. This is different. It's been gone ages. Yeah. So because of course the power cut happened and then the internet, of course, was cut out as well. So I had to wait for the internet to reboot and restart before I could rejoin. So yeah, a bit of a long one there. Apologies, ladies and gents, but I appreciate you guys still sticking with the stream. Anywho, we'll go through Euro Aussie. Now take a look at the New Zealand dollar position I have, and we'll go for Euro and pound on the 15 as well. So Euro Aussie, I do have a short bias for this one. I do still see more downside for Euro Aussie. It's a bit of a counter trend play. You could still argue very much the trend is still the upside, but it looks like a very exhausted trend. We've got multiple attempts of price trying to continue. Didn't mean to do that. Multiple attempts of price trying to continue the trend, all failing. Drive higher, failed, drive higher, failed, drive higher, failed. So that's telling me that we're very exhausted in this uptrend, which doesn't necessarily mean reversal. Normally just means at least a bit of a counter trend, a deeper pullback, maybe to go and collect some more buys before we do continue higher. So that could be the case. Of course, it could mean reversal too, but I wouldn't necessarily bet on that. So in terms of a play for Euro Aussie, I would just be looking at some downside back to the next major support level, which I would suggest is around 1.73. We've still got a bit of a gap to fill there. I wouldn't be looking to sell just yet. We're just going to take out some of these lows here. Not the best place to be shorting as price breaks the low or recovers it. I'll be looking at a slightly deeper pullback. I like this brief zone here actually on the daily chart, looking like a nice area of supply. Maybe not the cleanest one as we drop lower, but still has the same effect. If price can come back to retest that, reject well, of course, I think that's a smart place for some entries. And again, doesn't necessarily need to be the push all the way back down to 1.73. Even just the push back to this low makes a lot of sense, 1.749. If you can see price make that drive, I think that's a smart play there as well. So very bearish on Euro Aussie, bit of a counter trend play here. We've got the confidence to support that. It's not like an aggressive scenario here. We're shorting a really aggressive trend. No, the trend is clearly exhausted. So the counter trend plays make a lot of sense here. And as long as we don't break through this high, I would say the counter trend play remains valid. If price does start to break through that high there, then maybe we got it wrong. Maybe we're just in a bigger range, or maybe the trend is continuing at that point. So as long as we don't take out that high, I would say the shorts still make a lot of sense. And that looks like a good first target. And you got the daily level as a second target there as well. So that would be my outlook for Euro Aussie. In terms of New Zealand dollar, as I mentioned, I'm currently short on this one. Let me lock that in. I'm currently short on this one, looking for a swing back down into these lows here, 0.56. I'm actually looking at this trade as a bit of a hedge as well, because I actually am pretty bearish on the DXY, and I do still see more downside for the dollar. We can speak on that in a moment. So I actually am bearish on USD, and a lot of USD pairs I'm actually looking at taking advantage of that. So pound USD, I'm looking at buys. We can go into that in a bit more detail. Dollar CAD, I'm looking at sells. Potentially Euro dollar, I'm looking at buys next week as well. But I do like what I'm seeing on New Zealand dollar shorts. The price does line up in that direction as well. And if in case my bias on USD does fail, then potentially New Zealand dollar does work, and I still can make a profit based on the risk to reward. So it's a bit of a hedge, but more so I'm just trading the chart as well. Anywho, I'm looking at a swing back down into these lows here. We do have a pretty confident trend at play. We're still holding these VWAPs in the higher time frames. I dropped a VWAP from the high there and the VWAP from the high there. significant selling points in the market was still remaining below. We are above this VWAP, which is from the last or the current Fed cycle as well, which is a bit of a red flag. And momentum has picked up, but as long as we stay below these two VWAPs, I will remain bearish. If price does break above both those two levels, I will look to stand back. And of course, maybe that USD weakness is truly going to come through. But like I said, I've taken a short at this level. We'll see how that trade goes. In a bit of drawdown at the moment. I do have a second level higher up. So if this trade does fail, I'll look to have a second stab at the second buy at the cherry at that level there. Risk reward looks good for both positions, which is a key characteristic, because if I'm wrong, I want to be wrong small and right big. That's about a 1 to 4.71, and that's a 1 to 5 potentially at all. That's not set in stone yet. The risk rewards could change depending on the entry, but roughly could be around the 1 to 5 there. So yeah, we'll see how how that trade continues. Potentially, I might look to enter the second one if this trade does fail. But yeah, not too much to speak, to be honest, about this idea. It's just looking to continue the trend. Structure still pointing down. I know we've taken out some of these highs, but I'm looking at those as more minor swing highs. And as long as price can retain this area, I do think price can continue lower and, of course, hold the VWAPs as well. In terms of euro and pound, so I will speak on those a bit more intraday. Like I said, pound, I do actually have some opportunities I'm eyeing up. More so like the 2 hour, 4 hour chart. But in terms on the 15-minute chart, it looks like price, well, the daily chart, looks like price is kind of giving us a bit of a U shape here, a bit of a bowl shape pattern. We've gone from making lower lows to now higher lows and broken out the structure. So I'm looking for price to come back to resistance here and potentially back to resistance here as well. So I do still see more upside for Euro USD. Before I look to add this to my watch list, I'm actually waiting for the weekly candle to close just so I can get a gauge on momentum. And then I'll look to see if I can trade this on pullbacks next week. So that's why I said euro dollar. I'm looking to trade next week. But it looks like momentum's there. We've got that bowl shape pattern, which is a very high probability pattern from my experience anyway. And now I'm expecting price to push to 1.18. And if we can break through that, potentially 1.16 as well. So in terms of opportunities, I'll only be looking at buys. I like this zone here, which price is created just below us. I think that could be a very effective place for a buy. Again, this is an idea which I'm looking to trade next week. Similar trade to pound USD, which we can take a look at as well. I won't probably trade both. I just look to trade one. And the risk reward looks pretty good here as well. So very, very bullish there on euro dollar on the higher time frames. As for the 15 minutes, 15 minutes, actually, I would say is at least giving us some bearish structure at the moment. I wouldn't be looking for any crazy sell opportunities, but I do think there's a bit of downside for euro. I like resistance around here. If price can make another run back to this level, I think that's a smart place. Keep clicking the wrong thing. I think that's a smart place to position yourself short. You're back at resistance, back at highs here, and a stop loss above that zone. Look and see if you can swing it back into lows. That for me looks like an effective place to find an entry and a stop loss. And of course, if price was to break through that confluence, well, that would be a bullish signal. And the next bet would be a push back to highs. So if you're looking to stay true to the high time frame bias with the 15-minute chart, I would wait for us to break out of this kind of flag pattern and then look for pullbacks beyond that, continuations back to the highs, so on and so forth. So if you're looking to stay true to the high time frames, which it might, from my analysis, we are looking pretty bullish. So I'd wait for us to break out that structure, then pullbacks. If you're happy to take counter trend opportunities before maybe the buys kick on, then I'll look for a deeper pullback into 1.174. So you can get some strong rejection there, a push back into lows wherever they form, maybe a bit further as well. So yeah, it depends what you're looking for. But I'm very bullish on Euro USD, so I'm only looking at buys on the time frames I'm looking to trade on. But yeah, euro for me looking really bullish, and pound USD, like I said, looking at similar opportunity. I've already got some levels which I've marked up, which I'm looking to trade from. I've got my alert set for the first level, so I'm waiting for price to bounce on that level, and then I'll look to see if I can take some trades on the retest of it. In terms of my targets, I'm looking at the 3-week chart. I mentioned this on the weekly analysis. We had a really nice bullish engulfing candle from the last 3-week candle. I'm looking just basically for price to push back towards resistance here. We've got a bunch of wicks here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 wicks above this level here. So that's clearly a place where price is struggling to break through, but also clearly a price. I can get my words out. Clearly a price where price is being attracted towards as well. So it makes for a good take profit. So yeah, I'm just betting on a continuation back to resistance there with pound USD, and I mapped out a few areas which I'm happy to have again a buy at the cherry, look to play some entries with some healthy risk rewards back to resistance. This is the first level I'm looking to see if we can get a nice reaction from. This is the second area, and that will be the third area. If price breaks through that, then I might become bearish, might become neutral. Depends how we break and how things are looking in the higher time frames. But I wouldn't be looking for any buys anymore if we break through this third point here. So we'll see what we can do here at that first level. Again, I'm not too sure. I probably will find some entries maybe next week because it's 10:30 in the UK. I don't know. Maybe I might find an entry before the end of the day. I'm happy to hold over the weekend. If we kind of just slow down, then I will wait till Monday before placing entries. But yeah, that's the idea with pounds. Very similar to euro. And again, the reason why I like pound as well, I think risk reward will be a bit bigger there for pound, but euro, I'm looking at the same idea, a nice continuation back to highs as well. In terms of the 15-minute for pound, it's pretty much the same idea in terms of yeah, I'd probably look for pushback towards resistance here. That's the more effective place. We've been quite choppy on this move down, so I wouldn't really be trying to force anything here. If you can get another move back to resistance, reject well, I think that's a smart place for a short, smart place for a stop loss. And again, you're looking for that counter trend play. If you're looking for buys, then again, I would wait for us to shift bullish first, break of structure, of course, and then look for pullbacks and continuations. Same analysis goes for euro as well. And then you're betting on a pushback to highs, so on and so forth. So if you're looking for buys for pound on like the 50-minute chart, I would say you're still a little bit early to the party. You can still look for buys, but I would say it's a bit aggressive. If you wait for the break of structure, however, the buys there are not aggressive and quite high probability at that point. But yeah, 50-minute chart for both euro and pound look bearish to me. And yeah, still looking at a bit more downside, but high time frame buys, I'm super, super bullish. So yeah, hopefully that made sense. We'll take a look at BTC. Thoughts on Bitty Corner? Do you mean Bitcoin there, Sam? Appreciate it, Bashi. Yeah, guys, if you're enjoying the stream, drop a like, subscribe, share it with your friends. It does really help out. And of course, thank you to everyone who has done so far. Good morning, you say we'll take a look at silver and gold for you. No problem. Happy to help. Bashi, you're speaking a different language there, mate. Yeah, no, you messed up about 4 words in a row there. The keyboard's having some technical issues. Hugh's saying I'm waiting for 66.618 silver. Okay, we can take a look at those for you. I'll go through Bitcoin first. No problem, Yusuf. Happy to help. So in terms of Bitcoin, like I've been saying with Bitcoin for the past maybe 2 weeks, not 2 weeks, past week, we are in a very interesting zone in the higher time frames. Very much a zone we could reverse from and potentially see another bull cycle commence and a run back to highs. If the market is going to continue this bullish structure, there is, I would say, a good likelihood that we could very much find support here and do something like that. So it's an area of indecision for Bitcoin because you've got all this momentum here, which of course is going to attract a lot of people selling. But equally so, you're at an area where we saw a lot of buying pressure kick in. So it's a situation of who's going to be the winner. Is the sellers going to crack through the zone, or is the buyers going to win and send price back up again? So if you're looking for any opportunities in this area, I would keep it short term because it isn't clear where we're going right now. It isn't clear that the sellers are going to break through support. It isn't necessarily clear that the buyers are going to push us to the upside. So if I was going to trade this, I'll keep my targets pretty conservative and not try and shoot for anything too far. And if I am, I'm fully prepared to scale out that position early if things are not going well. And yeah, for the past kind of week, I've just been talking about shorting at the highs. We saw a nice short there. I talked about short to the highs again this week. We saw a nice reaction there. And that's pretty much all I've been speaking about, just looking for reactions at the highs. And I would suggest the same thing there goes again. If price can get back to resistance 2, reject well, maybe a nice wick, I think that's still a nice place to short. Still seeing adequate selling pressure from the highs. I'll still bet on that continuing. I wouldn't bet on like a continuation like this. It's a little bit too ambitious for my opinion anyway. But shorts at the higher 1-to-1, I think that's a sensible trade idea because you're looking for the short term, you're looking for the value because there's value up at these areas. Price is struggling here. Clearly, buyers are failing to push price higher. That's a smart place for a short. But yeah, I just worry about how far price can go. And of course, if we do see price start to break through here and we do start to see some convincing bullish momentums come back into play, well, pullbacks make sense. And there is a likelihood that Bitcoin could rally all the way back to highs as well. So I can see price go both ways. I'm not necessarily predicting one or the other. I'm just kind of more focused on the short term. And especially when you're in that scenario where you're not too clear on direction, if you still do want to trade, the best thing to do if you're not clear in direction is not trade. But if you still do want to trade, keep things short term because that way you can take advantage of the micro opportunities whilst the higher time frames sort themselves out, which is kind of what the situation we have here for Bitcoin. So yeah, that's kind of my take on BTC. And as I mentioned for gold and silver, very, very bullish. I like what I'm seeing with gold because we just had the break of resistance here. And I think it's a very likely chance that we do get back to all-time highs. So as I was mentioning earlier, just pull back to retest the zone. Looks like an adequate opportunity with the 4-hour hourly chart. If we don't see a pullback deep enough to actually retest that, keep an eye on some structure price might create on like an hourly chart or even like a 15-minute chart as we continue higher. So if you do start to see momentum, even this area could be something to keep an eye on. If gold's going to be in that kind of parabolic exponential trend, characteristic behavior, then these deeper pullbacks are just not going to happen. So the shallow pullbacks is kind of where your interest is, and I'll keep an eye on the 15. But we still got room to the upside for gold, not quite at the highs yet. 43.37 is roughly where I've got the highs. So that probably will maybe go and hit some point next week. So yeah, if you're looking to trade gold, pullbacks, buys make most sense. Silver's looking very bullish. I like gold because we haven't made new all-time highs yet. Of course, silver's still very, very bullish. Pullbacks, definitely a smart play. But I like gold because we still got that kind of expectation of new all-time highs. So there's still that tradable range. Whereas silver, we've made all-time highs quite a while ago. So every up move we make is always just a bit apprehensive. It's like, okay, we're expecting silver to correct at some point here, but at what point will that be? We don't know. At all-time highs, we can still keep pushing. We might suddenly drop from now. Whereas gold, you've kind of got that expectation that that natural likeliness that price is going to go create new all-time highs. So I like the idea of buying gold right now. Silver, on the other hand, of course, it's still a very bullish market. It's still going to most likely give you some nice upside, but it's just a bit apprehensive because I'm expecting a top to fall pretty soon. I say pretty soon, it could be next week, it could be in 2 months' time, who knows. But yeah, silver's still looking pretty bullish. I'll say the next big psychological level you got is 65. I think that's an area to keep a close eye on. That could be an area where maybe potentially we see some profit taking, maybe a bit of a correction. I like the support here. Price can come back down and test that. That for me looks like a sensible place for a buy. Nice zone just below it as well. Even a pullback to this area would make sense too. The market is just so bullish. You just want to keep buying dips until we see some signs of exhaustion or some signs of structure breaking. Then yeah, we can pause on that bias, but there is no sign that we're about to shift. So yeah, I do agree with the longs on gold and silver. Oh, you're looking to sell. I'm waiting for 66 0.618 for sell on silver. Target, okay, looking to sell, fair enough. So 66. What's so special about 66.618? It's a very, very specific price for a price where price has never been at before. So you're very optimistic there. I assume maybe that's like a fib extension level, maybe, or yeah, I have no idea. Because we got no data there to back it up. So you're probably using some type of indicator to predict that price. Would I be looking to sell silver? Absolutely not. So yeah, I don't agree with the sells there. Not that it won't work. I'm sure you got your strategy in place to come up with that sell idea. I don't want to talk you out of it, but of course, I'm just going to give you my opinion. I would only be looking to buy silver until I at least see some really strong signs of momentum failing, structure failing. Then I could think about some counter trend opportunities. But until then, I would only be looking to buy or nothing at all, really. Oh, that's when you can get your words out. Fair enough. So you're just typing what I was saying there. Thank you, Bashi. Thank you. Yusuf, please, your answer to you. Can you explain why you will still look for buys if it breaks your second target on the 4 hour, though it would be a downtrend? So yeah, if price was to break through this structure here, I don't see this as a significant low to suggest that price is coming down. Because again, the reason I'm bullish on pound USD is not because of this trend here. The reason why I'm bullish is because I'm seeing adequate rejection on the higher time frames, like the 3-week chart, the weekly chart, and I'm betting on the continuation of this move here. That's what I'm betting on. So if we break a 4-hour low, that doesn't change the higher time frame picture. What it does is it changes the 4-hour time frame picture, absolutely, but the higher time frame is still in play. And that's kind of where you're going to have your rules in place in terms of what you define as bullish and what you define as bearish. If I come up with a higher time frame bullish idea, then for that to be invalid, it needs to be invalid on that particular time frame. For example, if I was bullish on the 4-hour chart because of market structure, so yeah, if price was to break structure in the 4-hour chart, that would invalidate my bias. But if price does break structure on the 4-hour chart, but I came up with the bullish idea on the daily or the weekly, then me invalidating my bias because of a lower time frame break of structure is not an adequate reason to not trade the higher time frames. What it could be is a reason maybe to be a bit more cautious. But from my experience, you just want to stay true to that higher time frame bias until it's validated on the higher time frame. More often than not, you can get sucked into the noise of the lower time frame, and then you see price get invalidated in the lower time frame, and later enough, the higher time frame does actually play out. I'd rather be proven wrong on the higher time frame, which I actually derived that bias from. And then, okay, yeah, fair enough, I was wrong. But if the 4-hour hourly chart changes structure, because again, there's no ending to it. I could drop to the hourly chart and say if we break structure there, then I would stop. I wouldn't have my bullish bias anymore. So yeah, because I came up with the bias from a weekly 3-week chart analysis, the 4-hour chart is not significant enough for me to shift my bias. I'm just looking at key support areas where price is likely to react. Then I'm betting on the continuation of the higher time frame. So if my higher time frame bias is correct, that means price is going to get up here. If I'm correct, now I'm just finding adequate levels of support which I can buy from to bet on the higher time frame continuing. So it's not so much, okay, we broke through this low, I'm scrapping the bias. It's just these are support levels which I deem valid for a trade, and then I'm expecting the higher time frames to play out. Hopefully that makes sense. I didn't think I explained that pretty well. So yeah, I get your point, but I'm not bullish because of the 4-hour. Basically, I'm bullish because of the weekly 3-week chart. So yeah, it's like saying if you're bullish on a 4-hour and then you're not bullish anymore because of a break of structure on the 15. It doesn't really make any sense. Otherwise, you should be chopping change your bias every 5 seconds. So hopefully that made sense there. But it's a good question though. It's a good question. It's just I'm using the lower time frames to place my entries just to maximize my risk to reward. Because essentially, if I'm bullish on the weekly chart, why not trade the weekly? Why not place your entry on the weekly and stop loss on the weekly? Well, if I was to do that, I'll probably just have like a bunch of one-to-ones or even negative risk reward plays. The reason why I dropped to a low time frame is to turn what would be a one-to-one on a weekly chart with an entry and a stop loss on the weekly. I dropped to the low time frame to turn that from a one-to-one to a one-to-four, one-to-five, etc. So yeah, hopefully that made sense there, Yusuf. Good morning, big thanks. Welcome to the stream. Hope you're doing good. Welcome. Um, I mean, Alex, welcome to the stream. The username is throwing me off. I'm not gonna lie. Yes, we can take a look at oil. No problem. Hussein, that is the fib extension level. I'm waiting. Okay, yeah, I guess the fib extension. Yeah, I mean, again, if you've got a good experience with fib extensions and trading off those levels, yeah, absolutely go for it. I don't really use fib extensions, to be honest. I like fib levels in terms of the 50, 0.68, 618 as a confluence, but I never really use fib extension for target. So yeah, I don't have much experience with that, to be honest. But like I said, I'm extremely bullish on silver. I'll be very reluctant to sell. I call that a pullback on the low time frame example. Mark out 4 demand zones, go to 30-minute or 50. You'll see price pull back into those levels and go again. Yeah, exactly. You need to understand the difference between from low time frame direction to high time frame. Yeah, exactly. The temporary direction, it can be misleading if you don't see the high time frame. Yeah, exactly. That's essentially what I was trying to describe, Bashi. Like if you're gonna use high time frames effectively, you don't want to let the low time frames distract from it. Of course, low time frames are great because it allows you to pinpoint entries, maybe get out of the trade if things are actually not progressing well. But if you derive the bias from a higher time frame, then you kind of want to wait for the higher time frame to prove it invalid. Of course, you can use lower time frames to prove it invalid as well, but be prepared that the trade still might play out. The higher time frame still might play out because, of course, the higher time frame is not invalid yet. So you do run that risk. There's different ways to tackle it. Some people say, okay, the lower time frame is broken structure, therefore I'm not going to trade it. Yeah, I want the lower time frame to agree with that structure. Fair enough. I have the thought process. If I have the higher time frame bias, I want to be proven wrong on that time frame before I scrap the idea. That's the way I see it. So that way you might take maybe 1 or 2 losses before you catch the win with the third trade potentially. So yeah, that's the way I see it. Yeah, use that exactly. When you drop into like the M1 lower time frames, yeah, if you always use the M1 for direction and for your entries, then you're going to be whipped around a lot. You want to have a higher time frame that you then execute the idea on the 1 minute, because that's the real advantage of low time frames, which is kind of the main advantage us retail traders have over big players in the market, because they can't be so precise as us. They can't have a very tight entry and a very tight stop loss, because it doesn't make sense if you're managing millions, billions. It doesn't make any sense. So the advantage of us retail traders is that we can drop to low time frames, find very acute entries and acute stop losses, and have that asymmetric risk reward, 1 to 3, 4, 5, 6s or whatever. So as a retail trader, you want to play into that as much as possible, because if I have the high time frame bias in the weekly and then I take the trade there and I have a stop loss here, well, there's not much edge there, because everyone can place that trade. Even the big players can place that trade too. The reason why we have an edge from an execution standpoint is because we can get into the nitty gritty, into the small. Of course, you want to be careful with that as well. There's downside to that too. If the market's going to be very choppy, you can get wicked out, etc. But yeah, that's the way I see it. Anyway, so I was going to look at oil. Yes, I did. We'll go through oil for Alex. So yeah, with oil, we are looking pretty bearish. We talked about some shorts the other day, didn't we? I think price was trading around there. Still maintaining the lower highs. Momentum looks like it's picking up relatively well. We come back to support here, having a little bit of trouble. I do expect us to get to this low. I mean, discussing 50, is it 55? Yeah, 55. I've been looking for price to get to 55 probably for about maybe 3 or 4 months now. Um, and yeah, always just been taking its sweet time. But I still think there's a good likeliness. We are likely to, good likeliness, well, I said likely too much. I think there's still a good likely chance we are to go and take out the lows there. So with oil, I'm pretty bearish. If I'm going to find any opportunities with this, I need to have another pullback. I don't want to be shorting at the lows here as we come into support. I don't want to be shorting at the lows here as we come into some daily support as well. So if oil can have another pullback, maybe back to resistance, that would be great. Just betting on another lower high in this continuing. I can find an entry here, stop loss, and still take advantage of the swing back to lows and still maybe take some partials at some key areas there as well. So if I drop to like the 4 hour chart, yeah, I would suggest this becomes a nice area to keep an eye out for a short, back into resistance here. If you can get another pullback into that zone, nice place for an entry, stop loss above the high. You've got the continuation of the lower highs there as well. This is generally the area which you want to be looking to short from. And if we were to break structure, so take out that high there, that's where you would say, okay, maybe I should be a bit cautious with the shorting now. To be honest, if you do break that high, I wouldn't necessarily be bullish, but I would suggest you probably have a deeper pullback, maybe back to this high. So that then becomes a nice place for a short, provided we haven't gone and tagged 55 yet. So yeah, pretty bearish here on oil. I like this as an opportunity. I mean, we might just keep falling here. If that's the case, that's the case. But if you can get a deeper pullback, great. If we break this high, then we might see even a deeper pullback. And I think that would be an adequate place for a short as well. So you still do have major structure. If you look at the major swing points, 1, 2, 3, you could see price have a bigger pullback, put a fourth, then maybe see the next big leg happen. But yeah, it's all up to the market. Maybe it's a shallow pullback, maybe it's a deeper, maybe we don't even pull back at all, maybe we keep falling. But yeah, still pretty bearish there for oil. I think 55 is still likely to be ran through. But I use 4 hour and refine zone hours, refine zones to the hour, then use M15 and M1. Yeah. So again, it's just top down analysis, really using the higher time frame to find a high probability move in the market, and then you use the lower time frame to then turn that move into something of good risk to reward. That's the way I see it. If you have like a thesis on like a daily chart, expecting the daily chart to get to a certain level, well, then you can drop to the 4 hour, or as low as you want to try and make that risk to reward, very meaningful. Doesn't have to necessarily be like a 1 to 20, but if it's like a 1 to 5, 3, 4, that becomes really healthy. 1 to 3 will account for 3 small losses you make. And that's the way I see of really making good profitability in the market. You want to make sure that the sum of your wins is, of course, greater than some of your losses, but each winner pays for multiple losers. I think just having that as a key pillar of your trading helps so much, because if you think about it, a lot of losing traders is quite frankly the opposite. They hold on to their losing positions. Average loss is greater than your average win. It's going to be very difficult to be profitable from that situation. If your average loss is bigger than your average win, you're fighting a losing battle, a difficult battle. If your average win is bigger than your average loss, well, win rate doesn't become as important. The bigger it is, the less important win rate is as well. And that's just an easier battle to fight from my experience. Okay, where was I? Okay, totally understand now. Happy to help, Yusuf. When you come to my stream, you'll notice that I go to the hour, 4 hour. Rare to see that. Yeah, I mean, again, that's just using high time frame bias. But yeah, you're a lot more intraday than me, Bashi. I'm not going to the M1 at all. But I think the idea is still very similar. Morning, Precious. Hope you're doing good. Welcome to the stream. Look at hour 4 already, and I spend most of my time in the M1, and I switched to M5 and M15. Yeah, very. I mean, M15, I'm trading on a bit more now, so I'm getting a bit more comfortable with the M15. But I would still say my more comfortable time frames are like 4 hour, between the 4 hour and the hour. That's kind of where my comfort zone is. LFTJ, what's up? Hope you're doing good. What's your take on the CAD Yen? Which trades are you currently in or watching for 2026? I like that question. Probably still a bit early for 2026. I'll probably maybe define my watch list maybe the last week of December or second last week of December. But I can tell you what I'm looking at for the rest of December. Absolutely, and we can go through some trades in a minute as well. And CAD Gen 2. Precious, I need your idea on the HK50. Okay, please go small profit, but I need your idea where to re-enter for long. Okay, we can discuss that as well. I do 1 to 2 because my strategy is highly to hit TP at that risk to reward. That's a good point as well, because you also don't want to have targets at like 1 to, let's say, like 1 to 10, but the likeliness of price getting to 1 to 10 is like 5%. Well, if that's the case, then there's no point of having your TP at 1 to 10, just because 1 to 10 is a good risk reward. Of course, the bigger the better, but there has to be a compromise, because if price on average doesn't really get that far and only gets that far a very small amount of time, well, it becomes useless. So there needs to be a bit of a compromise there, and which is why a high time frame narrative, high time frame, having an idea of a high probability move on the higher time frame, which is so important. Because if you know there's a good chance price is likely to get to a certain level, well, then your TPs actually do make sense. So you're not just having a take profit at 1 to 10 just because for the sake of it. It's actually logic behind it. So it's very important. But of course, if there's a good chance, if there's good likeliness that price gets to 1 to 2, then use that to your advantage as well. And of course, other people might experience different risk rewards, are a bit more fruitful. But if that's the case for you, lean into that. I always say if something works well, lean into that. That's the market giving you a little sign of where you should be focusing your attention. Anyway, we'll go through CAD Gen, then I'll go through some trades I'm in, and then we'll go through some pairs I'm looking to trade for the rest of December. So yeah, CAD Gen, I like what I'm seeing with CAD Gen. Actually, hint, CAD Gen is one of the pairs which I'm looking to trade for the rest of December, probably going into 2022 as well. And I'll show you why. But in terms of the more kind of momentum intraday, intra-week analysis, yeah, the market is just super bullish. So in terms of ideas, I don't see anything else apart from looking to long. I like the buys here, nice support level there. I even like the buys coming back into this zone here as well. And I would just bet on a continuation and price running, of course, at the very least back to the swing high we've got here at 113.4, but I would bet on more upside after that. So as for all the yen pairs, I don't see anything other than just looking for longs. There's nothing else that makes sense to me. Not that that's guaranteed to make profit, but you've got probability on your side. And as a trader, that's all you can really ask for. So the reason why I'm looking at CAD GM going into the rest of December and potentially 2026 as well is if I scale to the higher time frames, particularly the 3-month chart, the quarterly chart. And the reason why I like the quarterly chart is because quarterly candles are about to close, of course, at the end of December, about to get the end of Q4. So I'll be going through a lot of markets and just seeing how we've closed for not only this quarter, but also for the year as well. But yeah, we're about to get this candle closure at the end of December. So the next 19 days and 12 hours. And to me, what this represents is that momentum is still very much up here on the higher time frame. So to me, there's a very high chance that CAD Yen is going to make a push back to resistance. If you look at neighboring yen pairs, pound yen's made that move already back to highs. Euro yen's already made that move as well. Swiss yen's made that move. And now I'm betting on Aussie yen catching up from a quarterly perspective as well, back to resistance here. I'm betting on CAD yen catching up back to the highs there. And I'm betting on New Zealand yen catching up to the highs there as well. So for the yen pairs, I do see a lot of opportunity with those 3 yen pairs in particular, just buying pullbacks on the way back to the high. Again, I'm not suggesting just have one take profit all the way up there. You can have targets before that, but that's the direction I'm looking to trade in. A high probability move followed by lower time frame execution. A great recipe. So CAD Yen, I see more upside here. Again, I'm not necessarily looking to execute anything yet. I kind of want to wait for this wave to end a little bit and then see the next bigger pullback. And this is where I want to start stacking my entries to bet on that continuation. Right now, we're seeing a lot of momentum. I kind of want to wait for that to run out of steam a little bit. But of course, if you're looking to trade intraday, you just want to keep looking to buy the dips for now. And like I said, New Zealand yen, same logic there applies. Momentum's picking up. kind of want to wait for us to go for our next bigger pullback, and that's when I look to stack entries. This one's got a long way to go. Likewise with Aussie yen, we've got a long way to go back to highs there too. So the yen pairs, I see opportunities on. The yen itself still looks relatively weak. The yen basket still got room to the downside. We'll see if that does persist, because I think we might see yen start to stagnate a little bit, because I think interest rates are set to be raised for the yen for the first time in a long time. So that might slow down the speed of some of these uptrends here for the yen pairs, but I don't necessarily think it will. I don't think it will end the trend. So maybe we'll see a bit more scrappier moves. I mean, the yen pairs have been flying this year and last year. So maybe they slow down a little bit, but I still think the trend will remain. So buys look good. In terms of trades I'm in at the moment, I'm long on the FTSE. I entered this trade yesterday after the FOMC. Fed was this. That was on Wednesday. Yeah, Thursday. So I entered this one yesterday. I managed to move stops to break even, so risks off the table as price made some new highs. These are some levels I'm interested in should price pull back a little bit deeper, but the bet is pretty simple here for the FTSE. All I'm looking at is price making new all-time highs. We are in a very bullish trend. Momentum's still good. We're still holding a lot of VWAPs here. Some key structural lows. The likeliness of us attacking the highs again is pretty high. So yeah, NASDAQ. I also like this one too. I don't have a trade for this one yet, but I am looking at some entries on this level. Same idea, very bullish market, higher time frames, still portraying a lot of momentum. I'm betting on another run back to the high there. Again, just drop into the lower time frame to find my execution. And this is where I want to find my entries and target the high. Again, that risk reward tool is not set in stone. That's just the level I'm looking to trade from based on price, based on how price reacts with the level. I'll then set my my stop loss. So it says 4.85 now. That could be a 1 to 4. It could be like a 1 to 6 potentially, but we'll see at the time if we get there, of course. And also another position I'm in as well as New Zealand dollar shorts. This one's a bit more of a bigger swing trade. I'm looking for a pushback to the lows here. I quite like this trend here. We're still holding below key structural VWAPs as well. As long as price doesn't break through this resistance, I'll retain that bearish bias. So I'm looking to see if we can hold this level, which is where I place my first entry. And then I'll look for a second entry if this one fails, and I'll have a second bite at the cherry. If we can hold that, great. And I'll look for a pushback to the lows there as well. So yeah, those are the two positions I'm in at the moment. I'm looking to see if I can jump into some pound USD longs as well. I'm looking to kind of play both sides of the coin. I'm pretty bearish in USD, but I like the structure New Zealand dollar, and the way I see it, it's kind of a bit of a hedge, because if my bias on USD is wrong, then I'm hoping New Zealand dollar will pay me. Otherwise, I'm looking at some longs of pound back to resistance up there. Again, I've got 3 levels I'm keeping a close eye on. This is where I have my first stab, second stab, third stab. If all failed, then I'll take the L and walk away and reanalyze from there. And dollar CAD, I like the shorts as well. Not very far away from my target. Dollar CAD has just been super bearish, so I'm kind of just waiting for a pullback for this one. I like these 3 levels here. If we can get a pullback, fantastic. If not, then I'll leave it be. And also, I like dollar yen as well. This one I might miss the move potentially. Didn't quite come to test my level there. We are looking pretty bullish. It could still roll back over and come and test my level. If it does, great. And then I'll hopefully take some profits at the highs. And again, another yen pair, which I'm expecting to continue higher. So yeah, hopefully that has made some sense. Self and demand, everyone's king at all times. You just need to understand what's doing on the zone. People buy from the zone and wonder why they took an L. True. I mean, the thing about lower time frame, it will give you more insight. The lower you go, the more insight you have, because at the end of the day, each time frame is information. And the lower you go, the more information you have. So you could even argue going to the 30-second chart will give you more information than the M1. Effectively, could be a better time frame to trade on. Yeah, I think it's just about balance and preference, really. I think the more time frames you're aware of and use in your analysis, the better. But of course, there is a cap on that, because you don't want to overwhelm yourself as well. I think as long as you get like a nice higher time frame idea, you get a lower time frame levels you can trade from. So at least two, preferably maybe three or four, then you're good to go. But you are right. The lower time frames, the more information you get. Appreciate it, Bashi. Yeah, guys, if you have enjoyed the stream, drop a like and subscribe, guys. Share as well. It does really help out. Currency, you said holding a lot of VWAPs. What time frame do you place your VWAPs? I don't place VWAPs according to time frame. I place them according to market structure. A lot of people kind of get that wrong with VWAPs in terms of, okay, I'm just going to use VWAPs from any time frame. VWAPs are effective because they show you the average price relative how much volume is at that price. So what you want to do is you want to draw VWAPs from key structural lows and highs. So for example, we'll use dollar yen. So actually, is dollar yen the best example? Yeah, we'll use dollar yen anyway. So I've drawn the VWAPs from key dips in the market. So this dip here is very significant, and it gave us this rally to the upside. I wouldn't draw a VWAP from just any random candle. It has to be a swing low in the market. So if we drop to the 4-hour chart, you can see each one of these are significant lows, and they give continuations in the trend. So I want to be aware of what VWAPs from these areas do provide in terms of information. I wouldn't just draw it from like a random area. So it's not necessarily time frame that's important, because you can draw good VWAPs on like a 5-minute chart. Although the lower the time frame, the less reliable it is. I will point that out. But if you can map out the key major swing highs like a 5-minute and draw your VWAPs from there, then you have some use. So it's not necessarily the time frame that's important. It's more so the time frames you're trading and then mapping out the key structural points there. So for example, I'm looking for entries here on the 4-hour chart. So I want to be aware of the 4-hour VWAPs. If I was on like a daily or like a 1 hour, it would be those time frames as well. So we'll focus more so on the key structural highs and lows. Yeah, I'll quickly go through HK50 for pressures, because I completely forgot about HK50. Then we'll wrap it up there. So yeah, HK50, not a market which I look at too much, but we did actually look at this one. Was it yesterday? No, it was on Wednesday, wasn't it? So yeah, I said on Wednesday, longs from here look quite nice, because we do have a key structural low there. Price respected support twice, and of course we are in an uptrending market. So naturally, I want to be buying from support. I did point out to say that we are a little bit exhausted. Our last swing to the upside didn't result in new highs. So that's a bit of a sign to be a bit cautious. Doesn't necessarily mean we're about to reverse, but it's a sign that, okay, maybe we're not as strong as we were over here. Maybe a new kind of phase is happening, maybe a larger consolidation, maybe a reversal. We'll find out. So that is a bit of a warning flag. So I said, if you can find some buys at the low here, this way you can take buys away from all the noise and then profit as price comes back to resistance, depending how far you want to have your targets. But you're positioned well, your stop loss is in a smart place as well. So that's effectively where I would want to buy from. You're asking where you could re-enter. I don't see any logical places to re-enter here. I think you had a buy around here somewhere, if I remember correctly. The only place that I'll look to enter myself would be at these lows here. This is where I'm away from the noise. I'm not entering the middle of chaos, basically, because the middle of the range here represents equilibrium. It represents where buyers and sellers are equal to another. They agree on price, essentially. So if you're going to take some entries here, you don't really have too much edge there, because you don't necessarily have the buyers are winning or the sellers are winning. Everything is equal. So if you take an entry here, have a stop loss here, the odds of price fluctuating and hitting your stop loss is pretty high. Or even if you do catch a move, the probability of price coming back to your break even is pretty high as well. If you go to break even worse, could hit your stop loss still. So the way to get around that is place yourself at the edges of ranges, and that would be here for me. So if you've exited the trade, if you're looking for a re-entry, the way I would look to re-enter would be a push here. Now, of course, will price get there or not? I don't know, but that's what I would be waiting for. I wouldn't try and force anything in here. I just don't think that's an adequate place for an entry. I would still be bullish. I would still be looking at long, so I'm definitely agreeing on that factor. but this would be the level I'll bet on. This is resistance I'd watch out for. This is resistance I'd watch out for. And then this is resistance I'd watch out for as well. Those could be some nice targets. But yeah, hopefully that made sense. All right, no problem. Yeah, guys, we have approached the end of the stream. I hope you have all found it useful. I do apologize for the technical difficulties, but there's only so much you can do. Yeah, I hope you have found it useful, enjoyed it. If that's the case, please be sure to drop a like. It does really help out. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of the content. Hit the bell too so you don't miss out on any streams or uploads in the future. Check out the memberships for the channel. I do provide trade ideas, trade breakdowns, analytics. We go through technical ideas as well, managing trades, executing trades, building high time frame biases, entries, etc. So if you're interested, check out the memberships as well. But guys, really appreciate you tuning to the stream. I will drop my weekly analysis on Saturday as always, forecasting the upcoming week. But yeah, have a great Friday, guys. Have a great weekend, rest, recharge, and hopefully we'll see you all again on Monday. Take care, and we'll catch you in the next one.